Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Three Owls podcast. Today, your hosts are Terry and
Haley.
Today is episode 6. Now, Haley, I've named it the Maiden, Mother, Matron.
Okay.
But is it Maiden, Mother, and something else? We'll get into it.
Maga and Crone.
Right, got it. So Haley's going to be running the show for this one. We're going to address such things as the cycles in life, as well as the spring equinox. There's a couple of other little tidbits that might jump up. We always have a good story to share. If you are a new viewer, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back to our little corner of YouTube. We appreciate you and we thank you for coming and joining us for our little adventure. As always, everything is noted below that anything you would need are timestamps, the socials, any links to anything that we discuss in the episode today. You'll find that right below in the description box. And if you haven't already done so, please click subscribe, click the thumbs up if you like what you see here, and join us. You can always go back. With this being episode 6, we've got 5 very juicy, lovely episodes in the past that you can go and catch up on. So thanks for joining us. That's our little intro, and straight off the bat, I'm just going to head it straight over to Haley because this is kind of her wheelhouse. So I'm going to be a bit of an accessory of this episode.
Well, happy equinox because it's actually happening. It's happening.
Yeah. Today, right as we speak.
Officially spring. And then we're mountain time, but tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time in Canada, we'll have the Aries new moon. So we're in the start of the astrological season for 2023, which is just nice. So before I get into anything deep, because I'm not going to, because basically I'm such a avid enthusiast, but there are very advanced professionals that I follow and join their things. So there's one chick that I am part of her. She's got a Golden Circle Club, which she does a new moon call every month and then kind of reads the weather in the planets and puts it up on her platform. And that's CassandraTyndall.com or CassandraTyndallAstrology.com. Anyway, you can find her website. She's amazing. She's based out of Brisbane. And yeah, so I'm actually mid planning for the Aries new moon because that's happening in this current energy. So I'm kind of it's almost like setting intentions for New Year's Eve, but now different New Year's Eve.
The astrological New Year's Eve.
Yeah. So the way because I'm turning 40 in May, so there's a whole bunch of things which I won't say the technical name, but essentially each year you have a different planet that rules a different part of your natal birth chart. So as you get older, you kind of progress around the wheel. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can go, I think it's astrocafe.com, and you can look at what your birth chart is. And that will tell you your sun sign, which is everyone's typical star sign that they read. But then you've also got your ascending, which is your first house in your birth chart. So I'm entering into a 5th house year. So my manifesting ritual, I guess, or where I'm devoting time, attention, and focus is my house of good fortune, which feels like a good time to me. And it's the 5th house, which is family, joy, children, creative hobbies, that kind of stuff, travel, things, just experiences, how you find your joy. So I'm just in the process of glitter bombing a piece of cardboard that's blue.
Of course it is.
And well, that's more so for like, because it's ruled by Jupiter, so it's a Jupiter anyway.
See, you lost me again.
Yeah, it's a planet. It's a planet. So the houses, there's like houses, and they have like a ruling planet. So it's all linked, which is why it's very like it can get super in depth, and I am very surface level. But I've picked up a few things. I've been following her for and like involved in her work for a couple of years. She does like she does like chart readings, and there's a bunch of different people. There's also some great podcasts as well. Energetic Principles is a great podcast. She's based out of I think California. She's really fun, and she's got a really creative Instagram feed.
For anyone who's watching, I'm writing these down so that when we go back to edit, we don't have to try to watch the whole video and do it again. So I'm just taking notes. Sorry, go ahead. Energetic Principles podcast.
Yeah, and so being able to, like, Cassandra did a reading for me back in like April 2020, 2021, 2020. Maybe I can't even remember. It must have been, anyway, somewhere in the middle of COVID. She did a reading for me, and where some of they're not planets, but the nodes are placed in my chart. Like she's like, yeah, so this is kind of like dealing with your past and dealing with your future, and within the cycle of that eclipse season, my whole life changed. So it's pretty funny, like, to go back and read that. I'm like, yes, you said a thing, and then the thing happened, and here we are. So it's yeah, she doesn't necessarily do a lot of like predicting per se, but she just like reads the planets in your chart and kind of what the current weather is and what the weather is going to be. So anyway, really good. But in terms of, like you said, the Maiden, Maga, Crone. So in the northern hemisphere, we're moving into the Maiden season, so spring. So Aries season, spring season, the equinox is all about seed planting. So kind of like cleansing the room out. Like, my house smells like sage. I've just been burning some sage and Palo Santo around the place. So yeah, our poor Airbnb person's gonna walk in and be like, what is happening? Actually, Ian will do that. It won't be the Airbnb person.
Yeah,
Ian will walk in.
Well, to be fair, he did marry you, so he knows what he's walking into, even though he doesn't literally know what he's walking into. He'll walk in, he'll be like, oh yeah, no, I get it now. Took me a minute, but yeah.
A wall of sage.
Yeah.
So yeah, so cleansing, and then just bringing in new energy, essentially. So yeah, so part of what I like to do is the vision boarding sort of stuff, but then also just like taking a minute and sitting down with my tarot cards and kind of doing the new moon energy stuff.
Is it a new moon?
Yeah, tomorrow, new moon.
Right.
Well, we're in the energy, but it's officially tomorrow. It kind of 10:23 a.m. Pacific time. So
11:23 Mountain.
Yeah.
I wanted, can we, and this is not typical, like, we're not going into, this is a topical conversation, like we just chat. So
yeah,
I want to go back to what you said about the saging. So the saging and the like new energy in the house and all that sort of thing. I've mentioned it before, you know, some health concerns around here. My husband actually just had surgery last week. And so I was thinking, from a totally rookie perspective, is that something that you would do, say, in my house tonight, is sage it before he comes home tomorrow? Or like, when is it appropriate, or when does it make sense to do those types of things? And I have a feeling
sorry,
I said I have a feeling I know the answer.
Like every day.
Yeah, sure, do it. Like, what's the problem? Yeah.
So historic, like the way that I tend to approach it, like that you can be quite ritualistic about it and do it like on a new moon and a full moon,
Yeah.
um, to kind of like cleanse, like because the new moon's about like bringing energy in and planting new things for that cycle, and the full moon's about cleansing and letting go. So, I mean, I there's it's kind of like the time I used to walk around with like a pink quartz rock in my glass water bottle because I'm like, you know what? Someone told me once that pink quartz keeps you young in your water. If that's all it takes, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Not detracting from my life. Also starts a lot of conversations. Very noisy though. But the like being able to walk around the house, it's kind of like intentional. So it brings me into the present. And also I do it when I feel a bit heavy. So like sometimes if I'm like, I don't know, if I'm just in a funky mood, I'll just walk around the house and sage it, and I'll sage myself and I'll try and sage the dog, which she usually is like not about it. Like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, get away from me. Which is her right, her being. She doesn't need to be saged if she's
No,
alone.
and to be fair, if you ever met this dog, you would know she doesn't need to be saged because she's the best dog in the world. Sorry to all my other dogs who I've loved, who are all dear, but she is really the best.
She's pretty special. So yeah, so sometimes and like particularly in winter because you're like everything's so internal, like it's so cold outside that everything kind of feels a bit stagnant sometimes.
Yeah.
So if I'm home by myself or Jack's downstairs in his crib having a snooze, I'll sage upstairs and then just like let the doors open and blow it out. And it feels fresh. You
Yeah.
kind of and I think being able to have a little bit of a ritual or something that I connect to energetically allows my perspective to shift. So whether or not it does anything is really up to
Yeah.
me.
That's not really the point, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the one living in the space, so it's just more. Yeah.
We're not about to like conduct a scientific study on whether sage actually impact like whatever. This is
Yeah.
if you're watching this podcast, you're here for the wonderful witty banter. You're not here for scientific studies.
But that's the thing, like I'm all for, I mean, I love science, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong,
totally.
but I'm all for like the balance of stuff because sometimes things just feel good.
Yeah.
Like I had this conversation with a girlfriend once around like kinesiology. Now, kinesiology in Australia is like manual muscle testing and for energetic things, whereas kinesiology here is like an exercise physiologist or an exercise scientist in Australia. Like the terminology is a little different.
Okay.
So akin here would be an allied health therapist. A kinesiologist in Australia is like an adjunct or an allied health therapist or professional. Like they used to actually be a part of like you could claim them back on insurance, but that stopped a few years ago. So there was like a little bit of like, yay, you're in, and now it's kind of like, that's too woo for us, so pay for yourself. But I was having this conversation with a girlfriend once, and I was telling her about how I'd been seeing this kinesiologist, and she was like asking like, but like what does she actually do? Like what actually happens? I'm like, well, I go in and she does a thing and we talk about some stuff and she does whatever it is that she does. And then I walk out and I feel better. Like that's kind of the point. Like
Yeah, whether it's a placebo or not, like or whatever, I don't know. And again, who knows? But there's two things I want to come back to. So
yeah.
you mentioned the word woo. I want to come back to that in a second. But we were talking about sort of like spring and how, sort of feeling pent up a little bit in the winter. I wanted to share a quick story because it literally happened to me today. And then I was driving home and realized it was spring equinox. And I was like, this is so perfect. And for context, we'd already done an episode to post episode 6, and it was a gong show. So we're redoing it, and we're going to just have it be a little bit of a blooper reel maybe at some point. So I'm at the hospital today, and spoiler alert, I'm not allowed to tell anybody this, but this won't be posted in time for other people to know. My husband's being released tomorrow, which is 2 days earlier than the original planned date, and 4 days earlier than the anticipated discharge date because of some complications that were happening. So I was kind of riding on a cloud when I left the hospital today. Excuse me. So I'm riding on this cloud, and I'm walking through a really fairly busy parkade at a really busy hospital in the city of Calgary. And I'm, it's a parkade. It's gray. It's cold. Kind of smells. It's, what's that?
Slushy.
It's
Like
slushy.
everyone's like melted snow off their car.
Yeah, it's dirt and slush, and unfortunately in some cases there's discarded masks or other things. Like sometimes homeless people sleep in the stairwells and whatnot, or at least it seems like that. So anyway, I'm riding on a high, and I'm in this really dingy, gross place, and I don't care, and I'm just like seeing the world with a fresh new set of eyes. And I come up to my van, and I was doing this thing at the hospital where I'm parking really far away so that I have to walk, because I'm not doing a lot of activity at the moment, because there's a lot of stuff going on in our life that activity is kind of taking a back seat. So I'm parking far away, and I'm walking the stairs, and I'm doing whatever. So I'm walking over to my van, and when I get there, I hear birds chirping. And so I was just saying to my sister-in-law, you could have put me in an environment where I'm standing in the middle of a beautiful scenery in Australia where the lorikeets are chirping, or I'm standing in a gray concrete parkade with birds chirping, and it wouldn't have made a difference to me, because I was just so excited about like life and the rebirth and the newness of what was going on. And tying in my husband's surgery and the releasing and the, like, we're finally feeling like we're getting our legs underneath us. So it sort of felt kind of like this exact thing that we're talking about, the rebirth and the regeneration of life. And I thought, like the universe is sort of like dropping me these little hints, and I was just like, thanks universe, little nod.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought I would share that story, because I thought, number one, you'd appreciate it, but also it was really suitable. Like it really felt suitable for this particular topic about the cyclical nature of things and the grubbiness of winter, but the promise of spring. And like you could say the grubbiness of like crappy energy with the promise of feeling better walking out of that office or whatever. Yeah, like the lightness. Yeah. So that's basically all I have to contribute to this entire podcast. Back to Haley.
That was a good contribution. 4 days early, that's amazing.
I know.
Particularly after what his body's been through, like insane. The body's so resilient, and the mind, that's the other part, is like being able to withstand that mentally and be so proactive.
Well, and my husband, I was sharing with my sister-in-law, and I shared this with you the other day. He's typically a pretty stoic individual, like not much. He's not like fluffy and fuzzy and warm. He's not the guy at the grocery store that, you ask to help you reach something in the tall shelves, because he's like in and out and doesn't make eye contact with people, because he's like all business. He's kind. He's not a mean person. He's just very stoic. And his perspective, I think, has changed. And obviously I'm speaking from what I see. It's not necessarily what he said, or it's not obviously his perspective, but it seems to me that he's, he went in there, that guy, and he's coming out a different guy. He's joking around with the nurses, and he's laughing, and he's talking with and I'm like, no, that's not the man I know.
Your house is going to be full of people,
right?
You're like, who are these people? You're like, I don't know. They're Drew's friends.
He wants to have a party, hey? Like he wants to have a party to sort of celebrate the closure of all of the garbage, basically, that we've gone through over the last 8 months or whatever it's been.
Are you gonna get us? Are you gonna get someone to do an exorcism on the house at the same
Right?
time? Yeah.
It's like I
Big
know.
on.
Yeah, we'll get somebody that I know. We'll go grow some sage ourselves. And anyway,
Dry.
yeah, yes. But when he texted me that he wanted to have a party, I was like, wait a minute, what? Who? Who are you?
What? What
Party?
happened?
If by
Yeah.
party do you mean have a nice hot shower and go to bed by 8? Because that's typically what you would consider a party.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that he wants to celebrate life. That's amazing. He's done
Yeah.
a lot of hard work.
Yeah, he
It's
sure
been
has.
a long road.
But yeah, I just kind of thought it was all sort of nice that it all blended in together, and it was all just like this lovely rebirth. And also speaking, and to kind of tie it back to what we were talking about on the last episode about luck, I'm standing in a crummy place, like literally a grubby parking lot, gray, and the birds were outside and I could hear them, couldn't see them. And what do I choose to see and hear? Well, I guess I didn't see, but like what I choose to focus on is the birds, not the cold, dark, grungy parkade that I'm in. So it's a bit of a metaphor for life if you're in a crappy spot.
Yeah. That's it. It's all about perspective and being able to have the choice. The choice is a big thing. And I feel like he and you went through all of this, making the choice of, I'm doing this, and I really wanted to swear, then I had to think of a different way of phrasing what I was about to say. But like, watch me.
Yeah,
Watch me.
right? I dare
Yeah.
you, challenge me.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's important. Like, I think a party is vitally important to celebrate, because, I mean, how easy would it be to be like, okay, I'm back. Don't have any more of any of the things that were going on for either of us earlier. And so now I'm just going to go back to work. Like, being able to stop and celebrate and be able to enjoy
like the end
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And create the next bit like it's a bookend.
Yeah, exactly. This is a perfect segue into the other thing that I was talking about, which was woo, or the other thing I wanted to come back to talk about, which was woo. I'm listening to an audiobook right now I think it's called How Are You, Really, by Jenna Kutcher. Have you listened or read it? I think you should. I'm shortly into it. Like I'm not really, maybe 40 minutes or something like that. A couple chapters. And so far, I really enjoy it. So again, we'll link anything we talk about today below. So I will link that book below. And so far, what I've read or heard is that it's, how are you? Really? So like getting deeper, a little deeper level than just the how are you? I'm good, or I'm busy, or I'm fine, or, and I really related to it. First of all, in the book, she references her husband, and her husband's name is Drew. I'm like, like what perfect timing. It's been on my hold list at the library for probably months, and I've been delaying reading it because I haven't had the brain space anyway. And when I say reading, I don't want to start a fight in the comments about whether audiobooks or actual paper books or even, electronic books are reading. If I'm listening to a book, it's reading. Okay. So
Ian's in the background, he's about to throw down. He's like, that doesn't count.
It doesn't count as reading. That's just listening.
He's in the background. He's like we've had this conversation. We agree to disagree. It's not working. Yeah, he's anyway.
What did he say?
He said if you watch a workout on YouTube, it's not a workout. You're not doing a workout.
I'm still whatever. I'm listening to this book.
Yeah, you're still absorbing knowledge. And,
and I happen to be doing it because otherwise I'm not gonna have a chance to read, because the only time I read is when I'm driving my car. So anyway, she, and I'm gonna see if I can find the quote, and I'll put it below. She references something between, and when she said it today, I was like, oh, I gotta remember that, about woo and enough woo and work. Anyway, I'm not going to try to say it because I'm going to totally butcher it, but I will link it below. Essentially, the idea is that she, you have to have a little bit of woo in order to kind of have dreams and you know, to do the crazy things that you wouldn't normally
Yeah.
do. Yeah. And so,
Well, otherwise, how do you come up with new stuff?
right. Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
be, you have to
Open.
be open to whatever is possible. So
Mhm.
whether that for you is crystals and putting a distilled water on your windowsill when there's a full moon, or whether it's, I don't know, reading audiobooks about something you wouldn't have normally read 10 years ago because you would have had your life already figured out, you thought. And then all of a sudden you're hit with a pretty intense, drastic change in your health to forcefully slow you down.
Well, I think too, like, yeah, it's kind of like comes back to that magic that we were talking about last time, but it's not really necessarily luck, but like the that Judan 11 book,
Yeah.
um, Make It Happen.
Yeah.
Like it still takes work. You still have to. So like the way that I use tarot cards, for example, is not necessarily like I don't use them in terms of like predicting things. It's not
Yeah.
like I do a spread and I'm like, oh well, you know, by this time next year, you'll be whatever. Did the baby wake up?
Yep.
You have to go.
I don't know. Yeah, it's more like a clarity. So in terms of being able to like look at what's happening. So for example, like the Aries new moon, I do a spread and I look at like different sections and then see what they have to say, and then it's my interpretation. So it's being able to be open to seeing something from a different view. So
Yeah.
whether it's like, and I like being able to use it as a point of reflection as opposed to something that's like, yeah, predictive. Like I'm not putting all my eggs in a future basket that I've mentally created or whatever. It's something that I'm like, okay, I'm using it to like pare down where my energy goes or what it is like I intuitively feel needs addressing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still work. It's still like it's not just if I pull like the King of Pentacles who's basically like sitting back and being like, woohoo, like all the stuff is done. I've made it through the entire thing. Life is amazing. Like you still have to do all of the things. It just means that one cycle is coming to an end because he's done all the things and it's time to plant a new seed. So time to get back.
We talked about this the other day when you did one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I take something like I interpret something by what you've read, and then you interpret something by what you've read. And we, you know, we can sort of, I mean,
Can I just tell you a funny story? So, like, I firmly believe from a counseling perspective, everyone has their own solutions within them. So, my job in that therapeutic role is to walk alongside and ask questions and be curious in a person-centered, non-judgmental way. So, like, when I say this, it's really, I find it really funny because a woman that I used to go and get facials from, when she would do them, she would always like make a point of touching your feet. So she'd do the facials and then she'd do this whole body thing, which was amazing. And then she'd make her way around to your feet. And then if she knew you well enough, she'd tell you, like, she always got this massive download when she would touch your feet. And she's like, all I can see is you with a little boy running around. This is in like 2020. And yeah. And so she's like, but she doesn't necessarily see herself as clairvoyant or clairaudient or clair whatever. She just sees these things, and if you're open to her telling you, then she'll tell you, and if you're not, then that's cool too. But it's like she's like, everyone can do it. And I believe that too. Everyone can do it. Whether or not you choose to listen is your own journey. But like when I did the reading for you the other day, like you were like ding 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 ding, and those things were coming out. I'm like, yeah, but like what I'm getting, there's like it's almost like this tapping on my shoulder, be like, but just like tell her this.
but excuse me, can you make sure that she hears this bit?
Yeah, she's got to see how this bit goes together. And it's just like, well, but you have to, again, it's something that you have to be, I have to be grounded, you have to be willing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's also, it's just interesting. It's something that's fun to be curious about.
Well, and rewind back to the night before you got married, and when we had for your bachelorette, we had a tarot card reading, and I'm not into woo. I mean, I'm into a little bit of woo. I'm like woo with a small W. And short version, we had sort of hired this tarot card reader for Haley's stagette, so to speak. It was the night before her wedding, and she did do the predictive type, and you can ask a question. You ask the question, you lay out the cards, and she had predicted that. So this was November of 2020.
2020 one.
Wow. Yeah, it was
Right.
November 2021. And she predicted essentially that I needed to sit back and that my husband was going to find us a house that was going to check all the boxes that we'd been looking for. Now, for some context, my husband and I had been searching for a house on a piece of property, you know, not too big, not too small, not too expensive, not too close to the city, not too far from the city. And
Goldilocks property.
it was a Goldilocks property, and we were looking for over 7 years. And I was like, you want me to step back? Like, I'm the only reason that any of this is moving forward. If I left it to my husband, we're never going to move. Because he was like, it has to be this thing. Anyway, so I did, and I just let it go. And I didn't take the app off my phone or anything, but I just kind of left it. And then one Friday night, he comes upstairs. It was February. Comes upstairs and says, the property that you've been sort of eyeing for the last few years is back on the market. Do you want to go see it? And that's the house that we currently live in. And I remember after buying the house saying to you, like, I hate that she was right, because there was no way in hell that this woman would have known anything about me doing any of that unless you had said something to her, which you didn't even know she was being hired to come to your stagette. Anyway, so I'm a little bit more capital WOO now, but it's.
So you do go to yoga retreats. Come on now.
I know, right?
You go to Woo Land for a weekend.
I'm not gonna tell you where to find that yoga retreat, because I don't want anybody else to know how amazing it is, and our massive audience of people that watch this podcast.
For the record, Mom, if you're watching this, like, welcome, episode 6. You told me you haven't watched any of these. Like, Terry and I always have conversations about how it's just our mums watching. No, just your mum is watching.
Just my mom is watching.
My mum's not watching. She
and
might
it's
watch.
not like she has any sort of time zone constraints, because she could watch it on YouTube at any time. So what's the probs? Bobs?
So she's like, I just need to the time. I'm like, just put me on in the background. Pretend it's Facebook and we just have it on the phone.
Yeah, that's what my mom does. She's venile. I love you, Mom. And thinks that she's talking to me when she's watching me on YouTube. Just doesn't realize it. Just want to be cautious, or not cautious, just aware of time. We've got 5.5 minutes left. Do you want to continue?
One more thing about you and the woo.
Yeah.
Is that I'm pretty sure it was around that time that you were like, oh, something da 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 da. Anyway, I sent you home with Palo Santo and sage, and you saged the house, and things shifted the next day.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No. But
Case study 1. Yes.
Woo 1, Terry 0.
Oh, you're not 0. I feel like you're still benefiting from the woo.
No, totally benefiting from the woo. And the woo is like dangling in my face, and it's like, pay attention to me, pay attention to me, you're not listening. Boom, birds.
I pulled this card. She needs to know how these go together. Okay, calm down. Yeah. 5 minutes left.
Yeah. So do you like, we can continue on. I'm fine to do that if you still want to chat for a bit, or are you done? You just kind of want to
I need to go to bed. I need to have a shower and go to bed. But Saturn's in Pisces and I'm a little bit tired. I'm not going to explain that.
You could have said,
he's got to work now.
Yeah. You could have said anything and it would have been like, okay.
But yes, basically, I just think that the takeaway from today's episode is being able to like be open to what is coming your way. And it's kind of like, I feel like life's a little bit like a good improv comedy club. Like you just don't say, like, obviously say no to things that are good boundary wise, like doing a second half of this episode instead of sleeping. But like if you say yes to things, you don't know what's going to show up. So it's just like keep kind of rolling while you've got the flow, and then you can be more open to stuff, and then things don't feel as stagnant. So yeah, being able to create your own routine or ritual based cleansing opportunities, being aware of where you are seasonally, and then maybe doing something to honor and reflect that. And yeah, I mean, if you have a womb and you're in the whole world of menstruation, you can link some of that back to like the cycle of like the new beginning through to death. So we have that happen every month, and then you can follow the energies of that as well, which is it's a good way of, there's apps, there's the Magic of I diaries, which are great if you like to write, and there's also another one by Jane Hardwick Collins called The Spinning Wheels, which she's just released, which takes into consideration what phase of life you're in, what phase of life the Earth's in, what phase the moon's in. So it's pretty interesting how it all comes together.
Very cool. If you're interested in more of this type of conversation, if you want us to talk more about it, just write some comments below to just let us know that this is something that you want us to talk more about. And by us, I mean Haley. And I'll sit and listen and learn as well. Cool. All right.
Like your books are about woo, and at the moment I'm listening to Peter Levine's like Unleashing the Tiger about trauma responses and physiology. So I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I just need to listen to country.
Yeah.
Super interested in this content, but I'm gonna cry some country.
Yeah. Let's listen to some songs.
Yeah.
What was your best part of your best day? We have 1 minute and 34.
My best part of my best day was Ian coming home. I love it when he comes home. Yeah. Also, because Jack is just like super excited about life.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, really fun.
It looks on his face, like when his face when he sees like his dad, or when you guys came to visit the other day and the kids were, and he was like, his little teeth. Oh, kills me. My best part of my best day was finding out that my husband was going to be discharged tomorrow.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's a secret. Not a secret. We don't do secrets. We do surprises. That's a whole other thing. So we do surprises. So tomorrow is going to be a surprise for the kids, and I think they're going to have a blast. I cannot wait. That's it. We're going to tidy up. We're done. Again, as we said, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Just all the thank yous. We appreciate you. Because of the viewers like you, we get to keep coming back and doing something that we really enjoy, which is talking to each other, talking to you, and sharing that for the universe. We will sign off.
Also, Athletic Greens.
Athletic Greens. Yeah, we'll see you next time for episode 7. Who knows what we're going to talk about then?
Bye.
Bye.